Good afternoon, it's Dave the Urban Survivalist on YouTube. I hope you're well today. Now today we're going to be looking at food storage for the long term, my top 10 foods for long term storage and my reasons behind this. Now we're not including water in this as this is another subject for another video. Also keep a lookout for some upcoming videos looking at the food we eat on a daily basis, some of the ingredients and understanding what they are and are they as good as we're made to believe and are they actually needed, and looking at alternatives and different recipes. This will be coming up in the Prepper Pantry section of this channel very soon. Anyway, so I am a UK based survivalist, prepper, whatever you want to call me. People call me some colourful things at certain times, but it is what it is. But a lot of UK prepping is nowhere near on the scale of our American brothers and sisters due to cost, space, laws, politics, etc. A lot of American preppers I see prepare food on a huge scale for years, enough to feed 100 people for like 20 years. It seems to be a lot of work that goes into this. Although the storage techniques they use and the space they have is amazing, and of course they have possession of a small arsenal of weapons. Now I'm not knocking any of that at all. It's all good if you have the time, space and laws are allowing. But for me personally, we go on a smaller scale for maybe 6 months food supplies max. My thinking of this is basically that as a family we would combine our skills, our other skills to incorporate and enhance our stored food supplies. So for instance, food growing, food preservation, foraging, fishing, trapping, hunting, obviously again laws allowing at the moment. Or if there's a so-called lawless society, we would obviously be able to do more. But remember, with a lawless society comes added dangers, which is usually other people that can take over the places that you want to go foraging or hunting for food. They can also come and take your stuff off you. So remember, be careful what you wish for, because in a lawless society, the biggest danger to you and your storage and the way you go about your life is other people. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, so when storing food long-term food storage, be aware of the dangers which are light temperature, moisture, pests and damage. Okay, these are the biggest risks to any long-term food storage. You can see I'm passing my page. I've got my notes here that I wrote, because this actual video took me about 2 weeks of research to do, so hopefully someone learns something from it. I mean, for instance, we're talking about food storage. Imagine that scenario where you're hunkering down, you've got all your food that you need to survive and you've got it all locked away, and you know, you start getting hungry, you open the cupboard and it's all damaged. Nightmare, right? Okay, it's all damaged by water, it's got pests in it or whatever. Storing food correctly actually takes knowledge and good observational skills, because things need to be checked quite often. But like I say, we go smaller scale, so about 6 months. Use miler bags, sealed containers and oxygen absorbers if you're into long-term storage past a year or so. Here's a couple of tips that might seem silly, but are so important at the time. Okay, store what's essential. Store what you actually eat. Regularly check and rotate. Really important tips there. Store what's essential, because you need room, and I've had this mistake before. I've stored stuff that I hardly ever ate and took up a lot of room which I could have used for flour or essential items. So store what's essential. Store what you actually eat. There's nothing worse than going in your store cupboards. You know, you're starving and you're hungry. The world has gone to shit or whatever's happened. You know, there's been an economic crash or whatever. And you go in there and all you got is tinned artichoke. And you can't stand tinned artichoke, so you're trying to gag just to survive. Store what you actually eat. Regularly check and rotate. So again, we're looking at the dangers from before. We're looking for sell-by dates. We're looking for damage to tins, to bags, any signs of pests, any moisture, any access to light, any change in the packaging or anything like that. So these are things we're looking for. So these tips are very important. Also, learn to use what you have. For example, milk powder is not exactly the same consistency or constitution as your shop-bought dairy milk. So get used to using it in different recipes. Get used to using it as milk. It's quite different. I used to use it quite as a staple quite a few years ago. And I used to have dried milk because I like the creamy taste of it with my cereal. and I used to have it twice a day regularly, and I started getting stomach pains, and I couldn't work out what it was, and I found out I had a slight intolerance to the emulsifiers used in the milk. So again, I'm not allergic to them. I'm not really severely intolerant to them. So it's basically if I have them too much, they can become an irritant on my stomach. Okay, so be aware of that when you're using stuff that is not the same as the fresh stuff you use, and there can be preservatives and emulsifiers used. Some of the things that I store for long-term storage, okay? And like I say, the views that I share on here is just stuff that I learned from my research. I'm not saying I'm 100% accurate, but I'm quite confident in the information that I've obtained. So again, look for stuff yourself, do your own research, and hope you enjoy this. Let's go and have a look. Okay, right, and number 10, we have ghee, which is clarified butter. This makes it very good for long-term storage, and is a good source of fats to put in your diet. It can be used for cooking or even spreading on bread like normal butter. It's not as tasty as normal butter, but it's a means to an end and a great healthy way to cook. It's full of omega-3s, which support a healthy heart and cardiovascular system. From my research, and when I say they, these are the sources online, the different articles that I've done my research. So instead of saying they, I'll say sources. So from my research, sources say that the shelf life of ghee is between 5 and 7 years. But in India, ghee was often placed into clay containers and buried for future generations. 100-year-old ghee, wow, is used in spiritual practices and said to contain special properties. It's highly valued for its medicinal properties. So I guess 5 to 7 years is a bit different to 100 years. But look into it yourself, see what you find out, and make your own choices. Okay? So number 9, we are looking at flour. White flour. Flour has a long shelf life, but generally goes bad after 3 to 8 months. This is what sources are saying on the websites that you look at. But when you actually look deeper into it, and you have a bit of a knowledge of food storage, or you're a chef or anything like that, you will realise that you can do this for a lot longer. White flour has a shelf life of about 25 years if it's stored correctly. White flour tends to last longer than brown flour and whole wheat flours due to its lower fat content. Okay, and whole wheat and gluten-free varieties in tests spoiled sooner. Now you can extend flour's shelf life by freezing it and storing it correctly. But again, make sure it's sealed well and away from light and moisture. Sealed in mylar bags, oxygen absorbers and sealed containers. You'll be good for a good 10 years. White flour benefits, again, not as healthy as whole wheat flour, but it still contains thiamine, or thiamine, whichever way you say it. Thiamine, which is vitamin B1, which metabolizes fats and proteins in your body. Selenium, which is healthy for your thyroid. And folate, which is vitamin B9, which is essential for red blood cell production and also for your healthy DNA. Okay, so even though white flour is not as healthy as the whole wheat, it's still a very good asset to have in your cupboard. Okay, next one. Number 8, we're looking at sugar. Now, doing my research on it, most sources say it never spoils as long as it's kept away from the dangers which we mentioned earlier. You know, moisture, light, temperature, pests, etc. Now, if you want a healthier option, then honey is a better option for storage, which can last up to 25 years. Even if it crystallises, you know, when it crystallises and goes solid in there, it can still be used. And of course, there's other alternatives like coconut sugar. Coconut sugar only has a shelf life of a couple of years because it's such a naturally untreated process. It doesn't have the preservative measures that we use with white sugar. So coconut sugar will only last 2 to 3 years, sources say, and white sugar will last 25 years. So it makes you think about the process our foods go through, and it's just very interesting, isn't it? And also there's things like sugar substitutes like stevia. Stevia, which has a shelf life of between 4 and 6 years, and also erythritol, which has a shelf life of about 3 years. So I guess it's whichever of your sweeteners or sugar that you're into. I guess it's like, I would say, like, you know, pick your poison, really. I mean, I've got a very sweet tooth. Not everyone has a sweet tooth. But, I mean, white sugar is full of carbohydrates. It's pure, instant, pretty much energy. Glucose is a food for the brain. Okay, on psychological tests, when I looked into this and did a bit of research, it has a great psychological effect, just having a little dab of sugar. And morale, it's very good for the system and your brain and your morale, and, you know, you get up and go and you drive. But honey, again, does exactly the same thing, but it's great medicinal properties and it's really healthy for you. Okay, so sugar, pick your poison. Now, at number 7, we're looking at raw cacao powder. This is not cocoa powder, this is organic raw cacao powder. We store this quite a lot and we use it quite often. Now this again has a shelf life, sources say, of about 10 years plus. And apparently it loses its potency over time, which, to be honest, I don't think it would affect you that badly. Because anyone who has raw cacao or has tasted raw cacao knows that it's pretty potent anyway, and you could tame it down a little bit. It's just such a good thing to store. And I question their shelf life about 10 years because it's dried. If it's stored correctly, I still give it more than that. So it's just so good. You can use it as hot chocolate drink, or you can use it in baking, making sweets, chocolate bars. Now, raw cacao is such a great source of fine nutrition. It's full of antioxidants. It has 40 times more antioxidants than blueberries, apparently. It has the highest plant-based source of iron. It's full of magnesium for a healthy heart and brain. And it has more calcium than cow's milk. It's a natural mood elevator and an antidepressant. So it's a great thing to have. And obviously, if you're in a shit hits the fan situation or any sort of type of society down situation, if you've got a choice of having treats like chocolate cakes, chocolate bars and cacao, then, you know, even the fact that, you know, having a drink of cocoa at night, it's a great morale booster and a great asset to have. So raw cacao in your store cupboard should be a must. It's not cheap, but it's a great thing to have. Now, number 6, we're looking at dried eggs, a great World War II staple, dried egg. From my research, it has a shelf life of up to 25 years and possibly longer, again depending on how it's stored. A great ingredient by making cakes, having scrambled eggs, or on a bit of homemade sourdough bread. I'm going to admit powdered egg is not the nicest thing. It's not like proper scrambled egg. Again, go back to like testing the consistency and stuff. Army guys love powdered egg. I know lots of army guys that find it a luxury to have a bit of powdered egg. But to be honest with you, to me it tastes like cardboard. It's not as nice. I have to add quite a lot for it to be palatable. But again, it's a means to an end. Powdered egg, you can use it in your cooking where you don't even notice it. You can bake cakes with it, all sorts of stuff. And again, don't forget the nutritional value of eggs. They're known for being a complete protein source, containing all the essential amino acids that your body needs. Tons of vitamins, a true superfood. Eggs are a superfood, there's no doubt about it. An essential part of any pantry. Again, not the cheapest thing to buy, but powdered eggs, put that on your top list of stuff to have in your pantry. Now, let's move on from 5 upwards. Number 5, we're looking at milk powder, dried milk, freeze-dried milk. Now, this has a shelf life of about 25 years, doing my research. Again, all these freeze-dried products can pretty much, looking into it, last forever, as long as we keep them away from the dangers which we mentioned earlier. Dried milk is a great asset for a store cupboard due to its high protein and calcium content. Also, it's a good source of vitamins A and D. It can also be adapted for other things. If you store cereals or grains or breakfast cereal, it's actually not that bad as a mixture. It's a great thing to store. It's also good to have in coffee or heat with a pinch of raw cacao powder and half a teaspoon of sugar for a morale boosting drink at the end of the night. But freeze-dried milk, like I say, the shelf life is 25 years, and the same as freeze-dried food. The same as potato. Freeze-dried potato, I won't mention brand names, but we have a freeze-dried potato in there that's literally 5 years out of date, and it's as good as the day we bought it. So don't ever throw away this freeze-dried stuff, because it should, if it's stored correctly, last forever. Excellent. Now number 4, this is a strange item, corned beef. Because I'm not really into storing a lot of tinned foods per se, due to the fact that the tins that they use a lot now are lined and they have ring pulls, and they don't store as well as the original ones. The old ones seem to store for much longer and much better. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Now, corned beef has a shelf life of apparently 5 to 10 years after the sell-by date. But there's a lot of conflicting reviews online. Some are saying like 2 years, some are saying 15 years upwards. And I think, to be honest, if it's stored correctly, I would look closer to 10 years past this sell-by date. But again, this is my source of protein in the house if we can't hunt or fish or anything like that. So this, if you think about it, corned beef is just basically, it's brisket beef, a lot of fat, a lot of salt, and preservatives. So if you're like me, and you remember old granny's corned beef hash, mashed potatoes and corned beef and butter all mixed together, absolutely beautiful in the winter evenings. You know, it's like the freeze-dried potato, corned beef, and a bit of ghee. You've got a cheap corned beef hash. Start mixing food around and seeing what you can do with it. But corned beef is so much better. If you don't like the slimy effect of tin chicken, because it's disgusting. You literally have to scrape all the slime off it before you can get to actually anything half edible. But then if you're hungry, you'll eat anything, won't you? And also ham. Ham seems to have a lot more preservatives than the beef. So again, you know, it's down to choice. And the thing is, corned beef is so adaptable. You can make spaghetti bolognese, you can make pies, you can make shepherd's pies, and I've done all this in the past. It can be used as fresh mince, but again, different texture, you know, different ways of cooking it, just slightly. Corned beef is a must-have staple that it's a go-to in our house, do you know what I mean, as an emergency meat source. It's rich in vitamin B complex, and the protein is really good, but as most canned or preserved meats are, lots of preservatives. So again, check if you've got allergy or intolerance to sulfates or nitrates, polyphosphates, all these things that are used to preserve ham, chicken, corned beef, spam. Just check, because they can irritate some people. Okay, right, so now let's go away and look at the top 3. Now at number 3, we're looking at staples everybody would suggest you store in your store cupboard is rice. Now white rice stores for a lot longer than brown rice. White rice can pretty much last indefinitely, but if it's kept in correct storage. But I would be honest and say about 10 to 25 years in reality. Now white rice. Rice is a great source of carbohydrates, the fuel source for the body. Brown rice is an excellent source of many nutrients, including fibre, manganese, selenium, magnesium and B vitamins, but it doesn't store as long as the white rice. Now white rice, it stores longer, it provides energy, it's easier to digest, it possibly lowers blood pressure, it promotes weight loss, a great source of manganese. Now manganese helps the body form connective tissue, bones, blood clotting factors and sex hormones. It plays a good role in fat and carbohydrate metabolism, calcium absorption and blood sugar regulation. And it boosts the immune system. It's a good thing to have. So white rice, again, you can see why it's in the top 3 of our storage. And it's cheap compared to other stuff. Now let's have a look at number 2. So number 2, the good old favourite, pasta. Everybody stores lots of pasta. Its shelf life, again, up to 25 years if stored correctly. Another bulking agent. When I say bulking agent, I mean things like pasta, bread, rice, you know, all these things, chickpeas, all these things that can make you fill up when you eat. So a bulking agent. Like other foods, it's good for carbohydrate. It's pretty much a staple for any sort of shit hits the fan or disaster food. Simply because it goes far, it's bulky and it fills you up. You can always try and make some yourself, still with flour and dried egg. It's possible to do. Again, in the prepper pantry, we're going to be doing lots of stuff like this. You're going to be quite surprised at my cooking skills and my chef skills and how the adaptability of taking stuff from the store cupboard, mixing it and making it palatable. Okay, but pasta, again, is low in fat, it's good in calcium, magnesium, iron and zinc, believe it or not. So it's not unhealthy really. But pasta, again, very cheap, fills you up quickly. It's very adaptable. You can mix it with other bits and pieces. Okay? So, yes, pasta number 2 is definitely a staple for your store cupboard. Now, drum roll, ta-da, number 1. Now, this is, people are going to be quite surprised at this, but this is something that I found the best thing that we've ever invested in and bought in and stuff like that. Now, number 1 is wheat grain, organic whole wheat grain, or organic grain in general. Now, we store a lot of wheat grain, spelt, rye, oat groats, things like this. Now, there's conflicting reviews online about the storage length of time that this goes for. Hence why the review I read earlier on white flour says it lasts longer than wheat grain, wheat flour. But it doesn't last longer than wheat grain if it's stored correctly. Okay, so looking in and doing my research, it has a shelf life of up to 25 years if it's stored correctly. It's a great source of nutrients, and also according to sources, having a high fibre diet can reduce the risk of heart disease, lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, reduces inflammation in your body. Grains and pasta, bread, rice, again, what I call bulking agents that fill you up well. Wheat berries can also be sprouted, a great source of vitamins there. The health benefits of wheat berries: they regulate blood sugar levels, support healthy heart, strong bones, promote good digestion, high in vitamin E. Vitamin E, which has been found effective in the prevention and reversal of various disease complications. Again, this is from PubMed and government sites. Okay, it can also decrease iron deficiency anemia because of the folate, high folate in it. So anyway, organic wheat grain or spelt or rye grain are great things to have. Obviously, spelt or rye grain have different benefits and stuff which we're not going to go into at this time. But look into it yourself. Now, the only downfall of having wheat grain is you need to grind it. Luckily, on one of my videos before, there's a grain grinder which I purchased, which we also use for oats and making rice flour. And obviously, in a shit hits the fan situation or power down or economic collapse or anything, and there wasn't electricity, we would have to find another way to do it. So we're looking into getting a stone grinder. But at the end of the day, you can buy hand grinders and stuff like that. So if you are getting wheat grain, then you do need a way to grind it. Okay, now that was my top 10. Now there's lots of foods we could have included in this, and foods we store, including military ration packs. Lots of stuff that we store anyway, but these are the staples and the must-haves that we have that I recommend for people. Now, all this stuff can be added to foraged, grown vegetables and fruit, and also if you go fishing, hunting or trapping, all this stuff can be mixed together to have a wide, varied diet and keep you healthy in a shit hits the fan situation. Okay, and of course, being able to have good nutritional meals and treats, you know, like cakes and obviously sweets and sugar and stuff like that is a no-brainer. Now, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just a little insight of what we do and what I store personally and my reasoning behind it. Now, maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me. Everyone stores different things. We all eat different things, and we all have different skills of how to put it together. So hopefully you've enjoyed this, what I've shared with you. And if you have any positive comments or you want to chat about it, please leave a comment below. We can have a chat, any questions. Or even if you disagree with me, if you think it's all bollocks, I'm talking a load of bollocks, let me know about it. Let's have a bit of interaction on the channel, because we're not getting seen by YouTube and YouTube's not showing too much. But anyway, lots coming up. Thank you so much for watching the videos. Please like and subscribe. It's been emotional. I'll catch you soon.